Hello, beautiful humans. This is Jen Madrone, and this video is a redo of a topic that I talked about on a couple days ago. I don't remember exactly when, but I did the video and then I realized that the reception was horrible and you couldn't really understand most of what I was saying, so I took it down and decided to cover this topic again. Of course, it won't be exactly the same, but we're going to talk about a question that came up in the group from Steve. So thank you, Steve, for this question. And it was about how to handle all of the little mundane details of your life when it feels so overwhelming and you're going through this process of transformation and awakening, and you're really consumed by that. There's so much happening internally and on a deep level that it can create anxiety, it can create exhaustion, and it can also just create a tremendous amount of energy in our body that makes it really difficult to focus on these things. And so it can be hard to find the energy and the motivation to do all the mundane tasks like doing the dishes and cleaning the house and getting the kids to school and making lunches and paying the bills and doing the paperwork, and all of those things can seem overwhelming in normal life. And then we add the process of awakening, transformation, egoic death, and it just feels like pure chaos. Because when we're going through this awakening, and especially now in this, we have this really interesting conundrum of the modern awakening process where we don't have the luxury of going into a monastery or going into a cave, or going off somewhere and retreat for 6 months to meditate, although we probably really want to. A lot of times I just want to climb to the top of the mountain and sit there and meditate and do nothing, but that's not what's happening right now. Right now, there's so many people waking up on this planet, having incredible experiences, and then their whole life is turned upside down. Everything they thought was true is pulled out from under them. And then we wake up the next morning and we have to go to work. We have to deal with our boss. We have to answer phone calls. And it all seems ridiculous because we've kind of seen through that. And we've seen that that part of life is an illusion, that it's not real. And it can take all our motivation out of us to do these tasks that seem unimportant now. And it can be really, really challenging. And it can appear in so many ways, even after we've moved through a lot of this process, and we're still deeply working and connecting with our spiritual self. And it sometimes feels like there's two of us. There's the mundane soccer mom or a 9-to-5er, and then there's the spiritual being that is just blossoming and transforming. And it can feel very bipolar. It can feel very split, and which is very interesting because it's kind of part of the process, is to see the illusion, and then there's a split inside of us. And then as we continue the work of transformation, that work starts to become about weaving the two together and realizing that there really is no difference. And so then we begin to bring the mystical into the mundane. Then we begin to realize that everything we do can be a spiritual practice. And we have to remind ourselves of that when we're paying bills and doing things that are not fun at all. We have to remind ourselves that we are spiritual beings that agreed to incarnate in this lifetime and incarnate into these human bodies so that we can have this human experience, so that our consciousness can expand. And we forget in that process of incarnation that we are actually eternal beings, that we are infinite, that there's no end to who we really are. There may be an end to these human bodies, but not to who we really are below all of that. And so awakening really becomes about remembering that we are eternal. And as we can start to accept that reality and start to really embody our eternalness of who we are, then the rest of life becomes a little bit more like a game. We realize we're eternal, so these little day-to-day things don't really matter so much. It just becomes a game. It becomes something that we choose to create, and we play with it. And it is a really interesting process because it does involve, this splitting apart and then coming back together and weaving ourselves back together. And so in the meantime, when you have a long list of things to do and you'd rather be meditating, meditate first, and then take that energy with you into your day-to-day tasks. And if you need to take a few minutes during the day to meditate or do a breathing practice or just sit and remind yourself that you are eternal, this is an illusion and we're just here to experience it, and then go back to your work. And so finding ways to remind yourself that we're weaving these two things together, that there is no separation and no division. And breathing throughout it. I definitely remember when I was doing a lot of really intense work and had some intense meditations I was doing, and I'd be sitting, I'd be in the middle, or I'd actually be in a whole nother dimension, and then my kids would barge in the room and they'd be fighting and yelling all of a sudden, and it would really upset me. I'd be so frustrated. I'd just be like, if I didn't have them, I would be able to reach wherever it is that I thought I was going. But the truth was that they were my teachers, that they were and still are my greatest teachers. And all of the mundane things in our life are teachers. They're all teachers showing us that even though all of this is going around us, we are still these beautiful, eternal beings. And none of that changes just because our kids are fighting or need our attention. So I hope that is helpful to you guys, because I know this is a really challenging one. And so I just would really encourage you guys to, even in the middle of your busy day, set aside time to meditate, do your practice, do yoga, do the things that remind you about who you really are. And then as you go about your day, try not to take it as seriously as you did when you thought it was really the only important thing was getting all of these things accomplished, because that's changed and that's different. So taking the time for yourself and taking time to laugh about it is always good too. So I'm sending so much love to you all. Thank you guys for listening. Hi, Katie and Irene. So glad you guys are here, Rob and Steve. Hope this was helpful, Steve. And just sending so much love to you all. And as usual, if any of you are needing some extra help moving through this process of transformation, then please just reach out to me, send me a private message, and we can chat and see if we're a good fit to work together. Okay, love to you all. Have a great night, and I will see you in the Facebook group.